Let's go across to the United States, the Andrews Air Force Base, where you can see President Donald Trump along with wife Melania Trump going out there to receive the three U.S. citizens who've been released by North Korea just ahead of the Trump summit that is due to take place anytime soon in this week. President Donald Trump there with Melania Trump, his wife, going there to receive and greet the three citizens, U.S. citizens released by North Korea. This is just ahead of a planned meeting between Kim Jong-un and Donald Trump. This marks a major diplomatic victory for Donald Trump administration, which was in fact secured during a visit by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to North Korea. In fact, Donald Trump had tweeted just last evening saying that he was pleased that Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, was in the air on his way back to North Korea with the three wonderful gentlemen that everyone is looking so forward to meeting. This is Donald Trump's tweet just from last evening. And here on your screens is Vice President Mike Pence. President, in fact, Donald Trump said and told the reporters last evening that the three U.S. nationals released by North Korea seem to be in good health. U.S. President Donald Trump, in fact, is warming up to meet North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. He was speaking to the media at the White House yesterday when President Donald Trump hailed the release of three Americans ahead of this historic summit due to take place with Kim Jong-un. He did give some clarity on the venue of the summit, but he had ruled out the demilitarized zone to be the possible venue. And then there is Vice President Mike Pence also going with Donald Trump to meet and greet the three U.S. nationals released by North Korea. Now, the negotiation for the release of the three Americans had in fact begun about 2 months ago, when North Korea's foreign minister had floated the idea during his visit to Sweden back then. And Tony Kim and Kim Hak-song were arrested last year, just this month after Trump took office, and were accused of committing hostile acts against North Korea, as when both the US nationals were in fact held captive by North Korea. Both men worked for Pyongyang University's Science and Technology School, founded by evangelical Christians in 2010. And the other detained American is Kim Dong-chul. He was arrested in the year 2015, and later he was sentenced to 10 years for spying. The businessman who had once run a hotel in North, so they tried to in fact steal military secrets from South Korea during a staged press conference. So, talking about the three nationals being released today. And for many, this move comes at a time when China, Japan and South Korea have agreed to work together to encourage North Korea to give up its nuclear arsenal. And it's on a three-way regional free trade agreement. In time when both leaders are supposed to meet in the near future now. We're still waiting for Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to arrive at the airbase. It's as per Donald Trump's announcement. Yesterday, it was supposed to be 2 a.m. on the Andrews Air Force Base in Washington, D.C. Now let's give you some more update. North Korea released these 3 U.S. citizens imprisoned for more than a year and allowed them to fly home with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, removing a source of diplomatic friction between Washington and Pyongyang ahead of a summit between the leaders of the two adversaries that appeared set for Singapore. The 3 men, Kim Dong-chul, Tony Kim and Kim Hak-song, flew out of Pyongyang on Mr. Pompeo's plane, according to a Twitter message Wednesday morning by President Donald Trump. In fact, the 3 freed Americans had issued a statement to President Donald Trump, thanking the U.S. government for facilitating their release. Now, the 3 prisoners held captive in North Korea were Kim Hak-song. One of them was in fact held on suspicion of hostile acts in the year May 2017. He had previously described himself as a Christian missionary who intended to start an experimental farm at the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology. And then there was Tony Kim, who was also known as Kim Sang-duk, also worked at the university there. He was detained in April 2017 on espionage charges. According to South Korean media, he had been involved in humanitarian work in the north. Kim Dong-chul. In fact, the 4th, Kim Dong-chul, was a pastor in his early 60s. He was detained in 2015 on spying charges again, and then was sentenced to 10 years for hard labor. Well, President Donald Trump, along with Vice President Mike Pence, have arrived at the Andrews Air Force Base, where the 3 U.S. nationals will arrive after they've been released from the captivity of North Korea. And this release somehow contrasts with the case last year, remember, of Otto Warmbier, a University of Virginia undergraduate who would return from imprisonment in North Korea later that time, and he was in a coma, but he died 6 days after his release. Well, President Donald Trump described Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's meeting with Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang as a good meeting, and they're about to set a date and time for the venue between the 2 leaders. Now, this comes at a significant time, remember viewers, it's just before, some time ahead of the Trump summit in North Korea. There you see live visuals coming in there for you. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has arrived with the 3 prisoners held captive in North Korea, finally released after years. President Donald Trump, along with Vice President Mike Pence, are there to welcome and greet the 3 citizens released by North Korea there. Now, as many would point out, the fate of the 3 prisoners of the last known US detainee, WION as well, who arrived last year. This had become a point of concern between the 2 nations, and this was an important deal to broker to release the 3 captive prisoners from the North Korean regime. And this is to what people attribute and critics do attribute, that this is a deal breaker for both the nations.